I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was telling me about another friend that she had in a relationship where things didn't work out as they hoped it would. There were a series of events, the things she thought she wanted, she got it all, and then realized that it wasn't what she wanted after all. And I sat and thought about it for a minute, and I said, it's funny how we make, there's a thing we want real bad, and we make sacrifices to get the thing we want, and then when we get it, we go, I sacrificed so much to get it. It wasn't worth the price after all. And we don't have that thought until we're not able to see it, until we get through it and get to the end of it, where we're able to look back with 2020 vision and be able to assess and go and be able to really lock in on it and come to the conclusion of worth it, not worth it. Kind of thing. And it really made me sit back and think about sacrifice in general, just basic sacrifice to the long game, like this person was in herself, and like I said, didn't know it till the end. So again, it made me sit back and think about goals and think about the things that we want to do while we're here, short range, long range, all over the place. And I think it's important to understand, to really dive into your goals. So we've talked about goal lists a handful of times, writing them out and be able to fine tune the process of how to achieve whichever one it may be. What the steps may be to lock in on the time frame of it, to lock in on the other mini goals it may take to achieve the long goal. That was on a previous video of really detailing the processes and the steps and all the preparation and everything that it takes. And there's always a sacrifice to achieve a goal. If there wasn't, you'd already have it and it wouldn't be a goal. So I think it's January of 2020 and everyone is out on New Year's resolutions and probably assessing the year and the things they want to knock out in the year. January is always the time where New Year's is always it when people look ahead at the calendar and think of the things they want to do through the year. So I think it's important to really dive deep into that goal list and be mindful of the sacrifices you're going to have to make, and as much as you can understand them now before you make them. And to me, a lot of the times, the sacrifice is time, and what will be, in that time that you are giving up to get after the thing you want, what would have been in place of that time. And I think you have to have that honest conversation with yourself, so that when you come to the, fork in the road of decisions, you're able to understand what you're going to give up in the risk of chasing down the thing you want, because that will be there. It absolutely will be there. And I think you have to understand that it's there, so that you don't look back on regret, so that you're able to make every decision and attack every moment with the same enthusiasm you had as the day you wrote the goal list. To understand there's going to be a sacrifice here, and if you're comfortable with the sacrifice, get on with it and get going. If there's any apprehension about it, you may want to adjust the plan. It doesn't mean the goal has to change, but maybe the process has to change. There's an adjustment within the plan to still get after the goal, but maybe slow it down. Maybe look for alternate routes where the sacrifice might be not as great, but you may have stretched your timeline out a little bit. Maybe you thought it was a 6-month thing, but that caused more sacrifice than you understood at first. And maybe you want to stretch it to an 8-month or a 12-month, and maybe lessen the damage done in the sacrifice, because like I said, they will be there. If you're lucky, if you're fortunate, if your planning is there, you won't, you may not have as many hiccups. And along with that, if you're married, if there's people in your life that maybe it's the time that I mentioned is going to be sacrificed, time with them, you have to talk this out, and you have to make sure they're on board and understand the plan and the process, so that you have support as you move through, and that sacrificing the time doesn't become too much stress on, just like I said, the word I keep saying over and over again, in the sacrifice time, where they understand and they're supporting your mission, your goals. Without that, it'll magnify everything you're chasing down, because it'll start to turn into a type of stress that's going to snowball away from you. So make sure that your goals are in place, your plan is set, you understand the thing you're about to sacrifice, be it time with your friends, time doing nothing. You know, you may be in habits of binge watching television, or just playing on your phone or dumb shit like that, or maybe a greater sacrifice of having to cut something bigger out of your life to make sure you get done what you want to get done. Again, make sure you got the plan in place. Make sure you understand as much as you can possibly understand in the future, although things will come up that you can't possibly, you can't be ready for. You don't know till you know. And then make sure you have the support in place to help you out, so when times get rough, there's not added stress with trying to knock this down, like I said, with the sacrifice and all. And like I said, part 2 of that, to kind of wrap it back to the top, hearing about the story of the friend, it made me wonder about karmic sacrifice. This is kind of part 2 of that. I don't know if that's real. I should probably Google it before I start, before I use it too much. But I thought of this particular person who all they wanted to do was achieve X. And I'll do anything it takes to get X. And then they got X and didn't realize, they couldn't realize, they had no idea of the chain effect, the dominoes that would fall in making all those things happen on the people around them. And then they got the thing they wanted, but there was too much collateral damage to be had because of that. And they couldn't possibly have known in advance, because people are people. And, you rely on me, I rely on you, and we're all unpredictable, and things happen, and life gets sideways sometimes, and stress and all kinds of, you know what it is. I don't have to go on with that. And like I said, they got their X, they got their goal, but the sacrifice, they didn't understand what was coming down the line, and they couldn't possibly have. So be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you're doing. Be mindful of everyone around you, and make sure communication is wide open. Make sure you're precise in your speech. Make sure your support is in place. Make sure you're open and honest, and doing the deep work within yourself. Because it's real easy to sit around and poke at other people and say, hey, you got to do this better, and you got to do that better, and all over the place. But before you start doing that, you really have to do your own internal inventory and evaluation of where you stand. What can you improve on? What are you? Am I weak in communication? Am I not a good listener? Am I not present in moments? Is there something about me where people aren't feeling me correctly? And sometimes you got to have some honest feedback with people close to you, and just say, man, hey, help me out. Like, where are the holes in my game? Where am I weak? Where am I strong? What can I do to improve in our relationship? And that's something that I just talked about today. And I think about it with coworkers. I think about it at home. I think about it in the football content. Like, everywhere I go, I'm like, all right, I'm very intense about my own self-development, and where I can level up my own awareness to myself to be better for every conversation I have throughout the day. And I wouldn't be able to do that without the books and the podcasts and all the other things that I do. And so that's why I push it all so much and put it out there on social media so much, because I think it's really important that we don't just work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, and get, all of a sudden we're 42 years old and go, what the fuck have I done for the last 20 years? So you got to make sure you are your own number one project, to make sure that you're just constantly growing, constantly leveling up. Because to me, if you're not constantly tracking, if you're not moving up, you're moving down. And I know that sounds silly and maybe cliche or really stupid obvious, but if you're not growing and moving forward, then you're going the other way. And to me, I kind of just had a brain fart on it, because that seems absolutely impossible. But to me, it does. I don't. Maybe that's the route to death. Maybe that's why I do. Maybe that's why I am the way I am, with the way I push hard to develop myself, and as much as I can, to be as trying to continuously grow, because I think that's the only way. I think that is the prime target in life, is to keep trying to level up yourself. I think that is probably number one goal in life, is to just keep improving yourself as much as possible, and that is living. Anything other than that must be dying. I don't know. You tell me. So think about your goals, think about your plan, your support team, your sacrifice, and leveling yourself up. Have fun.